The Gospel of Luke, the 11th chapter, verses 1 through 13, and Mary will read it in a few moments after I offer some words of introduction. In a few weeks, I will be going with a group of people from the church to Oberammergau to watch the Passion play that has been presented every 10 years in that community since the Middle Ages. You know, the story is that as the Black Plague swept across Europe with thousands dying, the community prayed to God and said, if we don't experience this for the rest of time, we will put on this production for you in Thanksgiving. So they've done that, I don't know, since about the 1600s, I believe. The auditorium seats about 5,000 people, so it's a large production. It sells out quick with people coming from around the world. I first went to it in 2010. You know, it's been delayed because of COVID, but in 2010, and they had changed the entire production and the format, and there was quite a hullabaloo in Europe about how dare they kind of do that. But I found it probably the best. Not cheesy at all like many of the ones I've seen or heard of in the United States. And I share that. Now, it's all in German, right? But you know the story, so it's not too hard to follow. But it's about the way I would imagine things occurred. Because we read sayings and encounters and conversations that Jesus has with people. You know, this person asks this question and this one does this. And the gospel writers, we know, have kind of brought them together, many of them the same, but sometimes in different order for their own agenda. But in this production, you know, the character who plays Jesus moves from this crowd, and as he moves over here, somebody else does something else, and then he moves again and has another encounter with someone. I suspect that's how it went. That he didn't just sit down like we have these written, but they were actual conversations like you might have from person to person following church. And somebody heard them, somebody listened to them, eventually someone wrote them down. But know that the gospel we are reading was written probably about 60 years after the initial conversation. So it's passed down orally, but then as Luke receives it, and even this Luke is probably not the original Luke, but a follower within that group, he wrote them down in a pattern and chronology that got his message across. So we have the original text, but we also have it shared through the voice and the eyes and the thinking of the evangelist himself. You know, you have that. Police take depositions at an auto accident and they get 3 different versions of the same thing. Well, I share that because here in Luke, and Luke's main focus is always about the outcast. The people who are tossed out by society, the people who see the world from the underside or the bottom up for one reason or another. Remember, we think about leprosy as wet leprosy, the kind that's very contagious. And you know, it's really not that common, and there are places in the Caribbean or South America where it's still, it's still found, and they have leper colonies. But the leprosy defined in the Bible as by the Jewish law in Leviticus is any skin disease. Any skin disease. Everything from dandruff to acne to psoriasis. You would be unclean if you had those, and you would be put out. And of course, if you had a disease that wouldn't go away, you'd be forced to live forever outside. And if it was something temporary, well, though temporary, you couldn't even come in the city if they knew about it, because you being unclean would make the city unclean. So, Luke is very concerned about those folks. Widows, orphans, women, the downtrodden, the poor, and the forgotten. And here we have a mention of something like that, but it's tied to an abbreviated version of the Lord's Prayer, which our full version is in Matthew, and Luke just kind of hits on it. It's about somebody coming in the middle of the night needing a loaf of bread, to put it in succinctly. But always remember that one of the big expectations of Semitic communities, and that's Muslims and Jews, is hospitality. You welcome the stranger. It's sinful not to welcome the stranger. When Jean and I were in Egypt in 2012, I believe it was, we were there during the season of Ramadan, and in the city of Alexandria, and during the day Muslims fast, but at night when sun sets, they all come out and have large gatherings and food and so forth, and we didn't pass one place, I don't think, that didn't ask us to join them, because hospitality is so, so important. So I'm going to read this text from Luke, or I'm not going to, Mary's going to, and I invite you to follow along as it kind of, hopefully I've given you the background for it so you understand the sermon a bit better.
One day he was praying in a certain place. When he finished, one of his disciples said, "Master, teach us to pray just as John taught his disciples." So he said, "When you pray, say, 'Father, reveal who you are. Set the world right. Keep us alive with 3 square meals. Keep us forgiven with you and forgiving others. Keep us safe from ourselves and the devil." Then he said, "Imagine what would happen if you went to a friend in the middle of the night and said, 'Friend, lend me 3 loaves of bread. An old friend traveling through just showed up, and I don't have a thing on hand.' The friend answers from his bed, 'Don't bother me. The door's locked. My children are all down for the night. I can't get up and give you anything.' But let me tell you, even if he won't get up, because he is a friend, if you stand your ground, knocking and waking all the neighbors, he'll finally get up and get you whatever you need. Here's what I'm saying. Ask and you'll get. Seek and you'll find. Knock and the door will open."
May God add a blessing to the reading of this word.